Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. Well, hello, here we are with this episode toward the end of the year. And we are talking about our goals for the new year. And we felt like it was important to have this episode as we are also talking about goals together, but also separately. And my business is focusing on those at mid-career, the halftime of life, and helping you have a better second half than first. And part of that is making realistic goals. So we're going to kind of go through some areas. There'll be a free download that you can get. You won't have to sign in for a thing. You can just download it. But I'm going to put all these categories. We're going to talk about different categories. So anyway, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to name the categories first.
Okay.
So financial, friendship, networking, fitness, spiritual, recreation, and family.
So these are personal goals, not necessarily corporate goals.
Right. Now they could be applied
yes, they
to
could.
Across the board to some other areas as well. So we are just saying that these are, it starts, you want to make sure that you're connected personally and professionally so you're not conflicting in too many areas. So, but let's start with financial.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of look to you with financial. You're handling a lot of our finances right now. I handle a lot of the finances in my business, but because that's what you are doing, and with our family and with savings for trips and for all of that. Currently, our goals. Why don't you name off some of our goals?
Well, some of our goals are to make sure we, save enough money for a couple of vacations we want to do. We need to go visit our sons. Two of them live an air flight away, so we've got to do that a couple of times a year. So, what we do is just pencil out in round numbers what those costs will be and make sure that we have squirreled away enough money to, take care of those. Mm-hmm. Generally, when we're talking about financial goals as people or couples, as opposed to corporations, you're going to talk about on the income side, growing your income. And if you're an employee, there's limited amount you can do, but you can also at least anticipate the next raise. And then if you're an entrepreneur, you can conservatively estimate, what do you expect your income to grow to this year, and then on the other side, you've got, to look at your expenses. Are your expenses getting out of hand, or do you need to cut them back? And then normally somewhere in there is cutting down your debt balances. That would first be credit card debt, and then secondly, coupling away your mortgage. And then last, if you've gotten rid of all your debt, is to work on saving. So those tend to be financial goals. And I know we've talked about this in the past.
Right.
So, but that's what financial goals kind of circle around.
Right. And I will give links in the article. There's an article for every podcast we do. To some of those past interviews that we've done, especially with you, talking about a default budget and all of that. But that should be pretty self-explanatory with some of those, with your expenses and what's going out. And as a solopreneur, in my business, I don't always know how much is coming in. It's not like I have a regular teaching job or a regular gig. So it's a little bit different that way. But I do evaluate financially all of the subscriptions and everything that I have, and think about, okay, what can I cut this year, and what am I going to add on? And so that's every single year, doing that. So that's part of those goals. Friendship. We are at the point where we're loving to add extra friendships as well, in kind of diverse friendships, especially with some of the trips that we've taken, which is kind of fun to add some different people that are also wanting to keep an active lifestyle. So, and adding recreational friends, and we've done that a little bit through pickleball as well. So what do you have to add to that? Our friendships, you want to keep friendships. I'm big on sending note cards and all of that and kind of keeping friendships, but also adding.
Well, I think Deb and I have talked about that right now we've got, so many core couples, and then the next circle out, we've got a number of couples in that group. And then the other group is one that kind of ebbs and flows. And normally you add couples to that third circle, and then if things go well, you move them to the second. At this stage of our life, the chance of somebody becoming part of our core couples is not likely, but we decided together that we have room for a few more couples in our life on a regular basis, either through pickleball or through church or through biking. We just identified how many, and wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah.
So those, but we're on. The reason we do it is we're kind of on the lookout for adding people and staying maybe in more regular contact with them than just the annual Christmas card or the birthday card or whatever.
And I think we're thinking about this more because we've seen what happens as people get a little bit older, and some of those friendships kind of die off, or they're no longer. Yeah, literally die off. And those things change, and if you're not kind of filling the well a little bit, and still your social interaction is very important.
Yeah,
Mind sharp,
one of the couples that was kind of on one of the inner circle is moving, out of state.
Yes.
So they by choice are becoming farther, one of the outer circles, and so that just gives us room.
Right.
But that's happening. It seems like more and more.
It does.
Either couples can't handle California, or all of their kids move and they want to be closer to the grandkids, or even at this stage, career is going to take them out of state. So anyway, it's just something we evaluate at year end, and think about make ourselves open for the next year. Right.
And I think it's very important with that, because we do want to keep that area up. And it's not like, and I've talked about relationship circles before, and we both have those individually as well. But as we do things together, we're kind of doing this podcast together. So just that that we do talk about that together, and that's a part of our relationship. Network, as we develop network. Now, I'm part of organizations, especially like the NSA, the National Speakers Association, where we have other, but just organizations to be a part of. And you've been asked even more lately than I have, of being on some different boards. And not said yes yet, but there's that consideration with networking and and we do have organizations that we support, and it creates a little bit more of a network that way too, professional network almost. So there's a couple nonprofits.
You need to maintain some network to maintain professional influence and or spiritual influence. So we evaluate our network and what organizations we're a part of. And organizations change year to year, so as they change, you got to reevaluate. Do you still want to be a part of it? And if not that, what next? So
and especially for support, I think too, because we support a couple of nonprofits and give. And so, one is an educational and one is another type of organization. And as you evaluate where that organization is going,
we're not going.
Exactly, with the change of leadership. And one of those boards you were asked to be a part of, but you didn't really know what their mission was ahead. So I think that's kind of important, in moving
Sure.
forward with
Yeah.
some of this. So, and we do, just that you know, we evaluate this. This is part of our yearly goals of, how we spend our time.
Yeah, part of, at this stage, where you want to spend your time is you need some sort of, reward for the investment. And the reward certainly isn't going to be monetary.
Right.
But is it going to reap the kind of influence that is satisfying? Is your input going to matter?
Right.
Because if it's not, you can keep your input to yourself.
Right.
So, you just got to think through, where to invest yourself, your time, your opinion, your thoughts.
Right.
So.
And especially at this part of our life.
Sure.
It's a little different if you're in your 20s, 30s, and even 40s. But now as you go into the second, a little bit more, 45, or, officially, the internet says half times 40, but usually it's about 45, 50, 55. And you're evaluating more what your time is and where you're going to spend that time. And so we usually evaluate that yearly. We have done this pretty much every year of our marriage. At the end of the year,
Yeah.
we kind of talk through some of these items here. Not as thoroughly as now with some of the relationships and the networks, because things have changed a lot, especially in the last couple of years with people moving away.
Yeah, but we used to talk way more intently about our financial goals.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
Things just change.
Things just shift, and depends where you are in life. Fitness. Now, this one we can really talk about because we've set some goals, especially because we just, as we record this, at least we've been on this biking vacation, and we're about to book another one for next year, and we want to stay in shape. I've been booking these active vacations with hiking or biking to keep us, motivated, and we both work out. And so there's this kind of, we each have a little bit different fitness goals on there, because
Sure.
you are...
But all goals don't have to be couples goals.
Right, exactly.
So, fitness goals can be, losing a few pounds. It can be how many days of the week you're going to work out.
Right.
What kind of fitness are you going to do? Are you going to bike? Are you going to do yoga? Are you going to lift weights? Are you, take martial arts classes?
Right.
It can be anything, but you got to commit to it and set a goal for,
Right.
4 or 5 days a week.
Right.
And just make it, part of your life. So so fitness is all about exercise, nutrition, and probably weight loss. Weight loss follows exercise and nutrition.
It sure does.
So
and some of the books I read is, this is your job now. The second half of life.
that's true. In the second half of your life, working out becomes kind of a part-time job.
Yeah.
Because gravity is going to have its way with you if you don't fight against it.
Yeah, and for everyone. It's not just a former professional athlete like you
Right.
are. It is definitely a part of my life, and I get up early, I get it done. But it is something that, and that we do. And when we were training for this biking trip, we were upping it a little bit. There were some days that you were doing an hour to 2 hours a day on that bike to be ready. And so it depends, what kind of bike you have. You did not have an electric assist bike, so it was, it was up to you to be able to do that. So, and our weight, if you have that regular workout, that's going to happen. And you just want to eat right. I think this feeling is right. Let's talk about spiritual.
Okay.
And again, our goals are going to be a little bit separate, but not all the way, because we talk about this together as well. I have joined, I have a morning devotional, usually what I have, and I've had this for a long time, Woman of Faith. And I joined a Bible study this year. I have not done that in a long time. It has a lot of been able to go through, some of that biblical literature that I've wanted to do, and that you have your separate studies that you are doing.
Right.
So, but we are able to talk about this together.
Yeah, and normally our spiritual goals have something to do with our input, so going to a Bible study, I'll be reading through the New Testament in a year. Output is kind of prayer targets, specific people, churches, organizations, maybe our nation that that you want to keep in prayer, and then influence. So, certainly we want to be, lights, and feel like that we provide encouragement and grace to the world. So, that in broad terms, that's kind of what our spiritual goals are about.
Right. But that's, again, is part of our conversation. And I think we are doing this just to make sure there's conversation going.
Right.
Either with yourself, with your spouse, or with, a small team that you're working with. So, but I think that's very important. And we talk about it, and it gives us other things to talk about. The same thing as professional, when you read, you talk about the books. You're able to talk about other things. You talk about new friendships. And what happens sometimes, if you're not growing personally, there's less to talk about. Like, what do you talk about?
Right.
So you want to be able to do that in a relationship. Recreation. And we talked about the trips, now active vacations. But your recreation's a little bit different than mine because you grew up playing golf.
Yeah, so golf. We both enjoyed pickleball. I think, some of our recreational reading fits in there. Because you just finished the Cane Mutiny again.
Yes.
And, it gives us something to talk about. But we both read recreationally.
Right.
So...
that was very interesting too. And when you're reading, you find different things. It's almost like you take a trip.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. And the Cane Mutiny was another very long book. And so I kind of got to the point where it was so fascinating because they were going through the lawsuit. And it was fascinating for me, having an attorney who was a son. And, okay, this is how he went about it and how, going through. So it was very, very interesting. Again, it gives us something to talk about.
Right.
And it provides, what recreation does is it provides a break from, a diversion, a total diversion. So whether it's skiing, whether it's golf, I am not a golfer. I kind of thought, that's a lot of time. I'd rather do I'd rather bike. And I have a friend that I will bike with too, a girlfriend that I can call up and we will do bike little, couple hours on a morning, maybe once a month or something. And so it's, there's people that I can do that. It's not always with Greg, and so, but that's within staying in shape. And we talk about that together and about our staying in shape and that recreation and what we can do together. And you're in some sports, you're more of a natural, and I'm not. I did not grow up with sports. So pickleball, even some of the basics are a little even harder for me. But I can hold it together.
Yeah.
It's not too bad. Family. This is another area now that we have grown kids. And we have adult kids. But I also wanted to bring up that we have siblings. And I have two sisters. And we get together and we decided, my parents really wanted us to get along. And in fact, in the trust and everything that my dad put together, he specified that nobody could contest and fight against each other or else we'd be totally out of anything. And we had a lot to handle together, two sisters, and we were all executors. I remember our attorney that was on it said, not very many people make it through when you're all, but we did. And we get together for, at least 3 to 4 times a year we have gotten together. And I know that if my parents were still here, they would be very happy about that. And I love my sisters. They're different than me, of course, and I'm always laughing at some of the things, going on. But it would be a huge loss losing one of my sisters. They're such a part of me. And the same thing for you, because you have one brother.
Right.
And you guys, how many times you call each other?
A couple times a month.
Yeah, at least. Yeah. And you're laughing and we get together. And so that's part of our family, our extended family, because parents on both sides now, we don't have that. We are the matriarch and the patriarch. That sounds so old to me, but we are. But also with kids, our holidays, we are still maneuvering a little bit with holidays and how those are going to look. And we've talked about that in some podcasts as well. But again, this is in our yearly goals of being able to see them, to keep in contact with them. I think it's kind of fun that because we have sons, that they communicate a lot with you with sports.
Oh, yeah. But, going back to the family thing, the reason we put family and set goals was it's easy to schedule your life around your vacations, around your recreation, and, you fill it all up. And with kids living out of state, we, got to decide, how many times a year do we want to see them, and we got to pencil those in first before we can really plan everything else.
Right.
So that's where we, set family goals.
Right.
Of, how often do we want to see them in person versus just talk to them on the phone.
Right.
And
right.
Unless you write it down, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't. And we have at least one wedding this next year. That is on the calendar, definitely. And, we decided to do an extra trip, like even, this month, and to see one of our sons. And, it takes 2 extra days of travel when you're going across the country. But to be able to stay in touch and to have that commitment is very, very important to us. On how we stay in touch. We're not around the block. We have one that's closer, but again, it's that commitment. And we are flying up to another one for Thanksgiving, and then coming back in time to be able to celebrate with the family that's here.
Yeah,
so
right.
But those are in the calendar, and I don't schedule work on that day. On those days, that's off my calendar as far as accepting engagements. So, anything else to add to some of this on what we cover with goals?
No, I think that was good.
Because we have done this really since we were first married.
Mm-hmm.
We have, at the end of the year, and some of the years we're like, okay, we'd like to pay off a little more of our mortgage, or we'd like to move, or, right now we're not. This year, we're not looking to move. We're not looking to, we're on track with our financial goals. It's now because we're in an inflationary time. We're just being wise and keeping things steady. And with adult kids, see, we're not handling what schools we're going to go to. Now, I'm teaching a granddaughter piano, and scheduling that. Those are part of our personal goals as well as our family together. So I hope this has helped you in some way. Again, we focus on this mid-career, the halftime of life, to be able to help you move forward. And as this is at the end of the year, if you are still looking for a wonderful gift, don't forget about the books, especially the Summit. Also, Women at Halftime is a great book.
Absolutely.
Those are great gifts, wonderful gifts. We have plenty of online courses, everything else, music, and all of that you can click into. Make sure you got the newsletter, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter, and you will get the article coming to your inbox every single week. That's basically what you get. You get an article and you get the podcast notice. So, and they're fun. I've had my newsletter, I think, for probably, I've quit counting, maybe 20 years. So it's been a lot of years. And anyway, you are free to, it's free. So we would love you to be a part of that. So thank you for coming with us today on this little journey. And thank you, Greg.
Sure.
So, yep.
Good to be with you.
We're together once a month on the podcast, so don't miss a single one. And I'll be with you. We'll look forward to being with you again next time. So bye for now. Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.